In 2007, you were in 3 of my favorite films of all time.
I was?
Yeah.
You know, Seth and Evan and Greg Mottola, you know, they really were so open to whatever I wanted to do. And I wanted to give him glasses because when I grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, there was a cop that would bust us sometimes and he wore glasses, and it just kind of demasculated. Like we were never afraid of him because he had glasses on. And then this idea that he becomes, you know, that he and McLovin are best friends, that this kid McLovin is his best friend. And I thought that was funny. And I remember what helped me with that character was Greg Mottola gave me a note. There's a scene in the movie, and we shot it early, where Slater busts into a house party and McLovin is having sex with a girl. And he, you know, I played it in a way for comedy. I played it big and over the top, and I was jealous, but I played it for comedy, meaning like, what are you doing? You done it. After a couple of takes of that, Greg came over to me and he went, this guy's your best friend, and he just ran out on you. And I went, okay, got it. And then that's the take that's in the movie where I'm like, why'd you do that? Like, why would you run off like that, man? Like, why'd you do that? And it just became infinitely funnier. I remember I started doing that, and the boom started shaking because the boom guy started laughing. Like, everyone started laughing because it was like just so real, and that taught me a big lesson. Well, Dave in Hot Rod is based on a guy I went to high school with, and the story in that about him being on acid and a piece of metal flying into his eye, that happened to my friend. I think he took magic mushrooms and he went into his garage and started soldering stuff, and a piece of metal flew into his eye, and he called us and was like, hey, can you guys take me to the emergency room? Apparently someone told me he saw the movie and then said, wow, that was nuts. You know that scene where the piece of metal, the guy's tripping balls and the piece of metal flies into his eye? You know that happened to me once? I was like, yeah, it's based on you, dumbass. I'm making him sound like he's not smart. He's actually brilliant, but he's just like such an Oklahoma dude. And now he's like a professor. I don't think he wants his students to know that that's based on him. I auditioned for Tropic Thunder, and there's an executive who works at Paramount who I could do a good impression of. And I did the reading a couple of times, then I told Ben Stiller, I'm like, you know, I can do an impression of this guy. And he said, well, what's that? I was like, I just want you all to know that we're having such a good time here. And I remember he said, this executive was on set, and he goes, do you know why they make the sandwiches so fresh? And then he turned to the guy who made the sandwich, he goes, why are these sandwiches so fresh? And the guy kind of awkwardly was like, I made them this morning. He goes, because he made them this morning. And I did that in front of Ben, and he laughed really hard. And I went, oh, cool, all right, well. And I didn't read the script. What I just did, I did that. And he knew the guy, and he started laughing. And then a couple days later, my agent called me and was like, yeah, you got the part. And then we had the table read for that. The table read for Tropic Thunder was insane. It was like that whole group. And then Tom Cruise walked in, and Tom Cruise, because I had a lot of scenes with him, he sat down next to me, and he was awesome. You know what? When he had all the makeup on and stuff, it was really easy to chat with him because you forgot it was Tom Cruise. And he was just going so crazy and over the top in it that it didn't feel like Tom Cruise. But then we would sit in between setups, and I mean, he was so generous. I mean, I was asking, I go, Risky Business is such a great movie, man. He goes, oh, thank you. Yeah, man, when we did that, it was just, and he would really give you really great stories that had great advice in them. In the Phil Les Grossman thing, and I would just be chatting with him, and he'd be fine. And then it wasn't until the premiere of the movie that, again, I saw him without the makeup on, and he was like, hey, man, and I was like, oh, God, right, you're Tom Cruise. And I was just, yeah, he's just, he's a giant movie star. That's right, yeah. I'm in the second Star Trek movie, I'm a voice of a ship. JJ called and said, "Hey man, you want to do a voice for a ship in the new Star Trek?" And I went, "Sure." And he goes, "Can you do it like today?" And I go, "Well, I'm in Las Vegas." He's like, "Let me get into this." And then it just got a call going. A car's picking you up to take you to this little recording studio in Vegas. And I went in and I did it like 3 times and then left. And then a bunch of SNL people were watching the movie, and they all went, there's Bill. I wouldn't have noticed me, but they were like, there's Bill. It's like, that's the weird thing. You do these things, and you do them, they're so fast. I've watched things that I've done voices in, and I fully forgot I was in it, because I have 3 small children, and we'll watch movies, and then suddenly my voice pops up in it, like Ice Age 3 or something. I'm a gazelle, and it's like, and I'm like, when the hell did I do this?
What do your kids think when they hear you?
They think it's embarrassing. They think it's terrible. They don't like it. They're like, ugh, it's embarrassing. But I mean, I would be embarrassed. That's the thing I always say. It's like if I was watching Star Wars and my dad showed up in the Millennium Falcon, I'd be like, this blows. Yeah. Hey, everybody.
Hey,
guys, how's it going? Hey, what's happening? You guys want to go? Hey, Billy would love it if you guys went to warp speed or wherever you call it. I'm like, oh, Jesus. Yeah, that's embarrassing. Yeah, the BB-8 voice is that's like J.J. Abrams being just a nice guy and being like, I'm gonna give you like a fanboy dream of having your credits in a Star Wars movie. I just know I recorded sounds and it didn't really work. Like I was going like, I was doing all these, and I would watch the movie. So I got to watch the Star Wars movie 7 months before it came out in a little booth, watching it on a little monitor, and I would just do ADR for any time BB-8 came up. And I go, and I would just do like these things, and it didn't seem right. And I was like, well, maybe Gary Rystrom was like, well, maybe we can manipulate it and do stuff with it, but it wasn't working. So I went, oh, well, I got to see the movie early. That's cool. And then in November, the movie came out in December. In November, JJ called me and said, "We figured it out. It's this talk box, like the Peter Frampton, like, you know, like, and he hooked it to this app on his iPad. So what BB-8 is me in the first movie. I don't know what they did in the other movies. I didn't work on the other movies, but it's just me with this talk box going like, and I'm just doing that, and JJ and the guys are manipulating it as I'm doing it. And it took maybe an hour. And I get asked about it, and now I sign pictures of BB-8 everywhere, and now it's like this big thing, and I did it in all of an hour. The Grey Gardens episode, that was Seth Meyers' idea, and he said, what if you guys did Grey Gardens? And I remember, to be honest, Fred and I were we didn't want to do it because it was us dressing in drag, and we were like, you know, there's a lot of funny women out there, and dressing in drag feels kind of like another time. I just don't like it. Like, I love Monty Python, I love Kids in the Hall, but anytime they're dressed in drag, it always feels like a little out of step. It just doesn't hold up or something. And so we didn't want to do it. And then the irony was he just persisted and was like, you guys are the only 2 people in the show. Like, no one's going to call you out on this. Like, just go do it. And so we did it, and no one gave a shit. It's the one that everyone knows. So clearly Seth was right. Barry's very different than anything I've ever done. He's kind of he's not necessarily a cipher, but he's kind of a new soul. He's kind of experiencing LA and all these people, and he's trying to find a community, and he's trying to get in touch with like what's wrong with him. Because he knows he's murdered all these people, and he knows that's wrong, but he can't figure it out, and he can't really even find a way to talk about it. He can't even verbalize it. This idea that he works in the shadows and lives in the shadows, but he wants to be in the spotlight, there's a funny conflict there. So we decided to pitch it to HBO, and again, we said we want to play it very straight. We don't want it to be, it's not broad or anything. And HBO, the people at HBO had seen me in a movie called Skeleton Twins. And they said, oh, we really like Skeleton Twins, and we liked your acting in that, so yeah. I would just go do table reads for dramas because no one thought of me in that way. And I wanted to do that kind of work, and so I did a table read for this drama, and the casting director, A.D. Kaufman, saw me and really liked me. So when she was casting Skeleton Twins, you know, they were looking at more kind of dramatic actors, and she said, you know, who's really good is, you know, who would be really good is you know, me, and so I had this meeting with him, and he was like, aren't you the guy who just does, you know, you do Stefon, you know, and all that, and no, I could, you know, work with you on the character, and the idea was that, you know, him being gay isn't, he's out and proud, has nothing to do, he's depressed, and I related to the idea of like, no one's told you you're good at something, you know, you move out to LA, you get away from your hometown, and there was a part of that Milo character that I could have been that if just like one or two things went wrong. I would have been right back home and pissed off, and you know, and I related to those feelings, and so I think we saw the character the same way, which is like, you know, play him out and play, you know, he can be flamboyant and not, there always seemed to be a thing of like, you know, Craig and I talked about like, people don't want to play them too flamboyant, especially straight actors, because they don't want to seem like they're doing a caricature or whatever, and I get that, but you know, Craig and I were saying, yeah, we know plenty of gay friends who are out and very flamboyant, and like, just play it that way. And the fact that he gave me so much, he had so much confidence in me, meant a lot. And then to get to work with Kristen in that way was fantastic, because it just was so, we had 8 years of experience together. So there was no acting. It was just, we were just reacting off each other, and it was a blast. Well, the one everyone loved was Stefon. That was the one everyone talked about the most, which was a blast. That was always fun to do. That was based on a barista in Chelsea who actually turned out to be friends with Kate McKinnon after the fact, which was funny. He didn't talk like that or really dress like that. It was just this attitude he had. And then John Mulaney had a character that he would kind of do the voice of, and we just kind of brought them together. A lot of Stefon is John Mulaney. He deserves a lot of credit for that character. I mean, so much of the language of that character is John Mulaney. If I have a favorite role, they're all so different. I just like that everything's so different, I hope so, you know, and just to continue doing that. You know, there's like little moments where you have like a benchmark, you know, where you felt like, oh man, I was so loose on Superbad, and that was a lot of fun, or the chance to get to do something like Skeleton Twins, which is so different, and then Barry, which is its own different thing, and it's just wanting to be able to swerve like that. That's my biggest hope. All right, thanks for hearing me natter on about my career. Hope you enjoyed yourself. Bye.